Right, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good day all. Uh, First live for a while, and as you can see, I've been trying to emulate all the gonks that are being made as a real life one. So I won't. I'll put you over to the earworms in a minute. We have a technical assistant today as well, Neil. He's in the background there. So if any cameras get mixed up, blame him, not me. Okay. We've already had a major disaster by me closing the window down straight away. So, okay, I'll put the earworms into the back. Of course, we've got our normal earworms, Jay and Sid. So we'll get on with the motley, shall we? Change to that, put them in the background, get off this camera. Just bear with me a minute.
Hello, everyone.
G'day all.
That's a good shot, eh?
Hey, that's beauty.
Right. Thought some people would like to see the lathe that I'm actually using. So this is Reg. Just lost the connection, I think. It's on the power side. It's down there. Here, hold the camera, please, Neil. Just hold on. Bear with us, folks. Right, we got a picky.
No.
We can set the date or the time.
Yep, right. Now we got
Now we got a picture.
Okay, this is Reg. 3 horsepower of pure grunt, Clydesdales on steroids. It actually runs belts, triple belts, up to a gearbox system in the headstock. Now, to change speeds, here's all the speeds. It goes from 98 to 1900, close enough. And it's all changed within the gearbox here, which on low speed makes it very, very hard to turn the headstock. But what you can do is put it into a neutral position like that, and it makes it very, very easy to turn. So I'll set it on to where I want to go for starters. See. Come on, get into gear. That's the slowest speed. Now, weighs somewhere between 3.5 and 5 tonne. That's the headstock end. It's got 8 feet close enough between centres while it's there like that. But you can actually wind the bed out another 5 feet. So it's a fair, it gives you 12 feet between centres then. Tail stock. Now these are all the chisels that I won't be using all of them, but that's just a few bowl gouges. They're all shaped or sharpened slightly differently. So we'll go through them as we get going. And that's the faceplate of Reg itself, 2 feet in diameter. It's extended out to 3 feet with a bit of MDF. And we're running an 8-inch faceplate on the back of that that's held in by 2 and 3 inch, forget the name of them now, batten screws, that's it. So it's not going to go anywhere. Right, we'll disconnect this and put it onto another camera.
How you going, Michael?
Now, I cannot see the actual screen here, so I can't say hello to anybody that comes in because I don't know who's coming in. So now the timber is Japanese cedar.
Robbo, do you want us to do questions as they come in, or?
Yes, please.
So Rex has just put a question in. How much of a concrete layer did you pour to hold Reg?
Well, it's not actually concrete. It's what's called grouting. And we had to lift Reg up 4 inches off the floor before we grouted it in. So I've actually got, if you have a look through YouTube, there's actually pictures of it when I'm actually doing it. I think it was about half a cubic metre we had to put in underneath it. But I tell you what, we work like niggers because we work like slaves because it dries off very, very quickly. So it was a hell of a job. It took two of us nearly half the day of running backwards and forwards, mixing it up in buckets and things. If I ever did it again, I'd get a concrete truck in, I reckon, and do it because it'd be far easier.
Yeah. Justin's just come into the room. How you going, Justin?
Hey, Justin.
Justin, I've been thinking of getting hold of you. I've got a bed extension for that lathe that you've got. So it's here when you want to pick it up. I finally found it. Okay. Now, the biggest problem with this lathe is that it's so heavy that you cannot tell whether anything's unbalanced on it. You can actually turn the timber so fast that you can turn it to self-destruct. So, and the balance can be, or the unbalance can be caused by a lot of things. You can have where the moisture's sunk down to one side. A lot of people store blanks on their edge when they've cut them to round, or even when they're cut square, and the moisture falls to the bottom. So that can cause unbalance in the timber. Not being cut straight or square can cause unbalance in the timber. The density of the grain in some timbers can cause unbalance. So all these things have to be taken into account when you're starting up. Never start an unknown blank at full speed. Even on reg, which I can do, I never do it. I always start on the slow speed. Now, we started actually taking some of this off. It had another extra 2 inches on the side here to get it down flat. And I blame the bloke that uses the chainsaw for that. He can't say much. So we had to get it off flat to do something else. So we've already started it. Now, as I've said a million times before, I never ever worry about trying to get it round. Just go to the overhead camera, Neil, please. Now, I've got a technical assistant here. So that one. Just press the button. Yeah, press the button and watch the screen. He's a trainee TA.
Slow learner, I think. You're already on the overhead, Robbo, I reckon.
Yeah, I am now. Right. Yep.
Ricky's Rocket says, ask how you're going, Robbo.
Right, I'll tell you in a minute. Now, I never worry about starting off here and getting it down the round. I start off down the face here because you've got to get it to shape anyway. So why waste time doing that? Now, it starts forming the shape straight away from when I'm starting to rough it out. Because a lot of people, you see them working it on the round here, and the chisel's going bang, 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 bang. Whereas if you come from here and make a plunge cut straight in, you're getting it down to round and it's not bouncing all the time. It's only for the sections that are out of balance. It's particularly bad on square bits of timber. So it's far easier to come in from here and do it from here. Now, to answer Ricky's question, how am I going? As well as can be expected, I'll put it that way, considering the circumstances. They finally found out what's causing most of the problems. I've got a fibrillation in the upper part of my heart and a flutter in the lower part of my heart. My heart is not working properly. My lungs are buggered from too much smoking and inhaling too much smoke and lack of thinners and everything else. So I've only got 40%. But that's cut down even further because I have fluid in my lungs. And the fluid's there because the heart's not working properly. It's not getting rid of it. So in a month or so, I'll go in for an operation on my heart to make it work properly so that hopefully it'll get the fluid out of my lungs, which will help me breathe a little bit easier. But I'm not on oxygen or anything at the moment, so I figure I'm going pretty well. And thanks for asking. So Okay. Now, bowl gouges. As you saw before, there was a plethora of bowl gouges. The deep fluted bowl turning gouge, which is its correct name, did not come into being until 1970, believe it or not. They were a bit slow in developing it. It was, I can never remember who the dad was, but it was either Roy or Peter Child in England that developed the bowl turning gouge. And he approached Henry Taylor to make them after he'd made his own. And all the shapes are based on the Henry Taylor parabolic flute shape. If you have V flutes, there's V flutes, round flutes. I'll just show you, that's the easiest way. Just change to this camera, the tailstock camera, please, Nick. That one, yep. Okay, now this is a parabolic flute.
Perfect. No, you're frozen, Robbo.
We
You're
blaming
completely
Neil for that as
frozen.
well.
Yeah.
There you go.
No. No, you don't. He might have to sack that TA, I think.
He's probably overpaid.
Yeah.
Here we go. We're back again. Still
That
frozen.
camera has completely frozen, Robbo. Switch to another camera. And then if that's not working, maybe you need to refresh your actual StreamYard page. Right, nothing to see here, folks.
Yeah, no, it's a nice picture on your wall behind you, Joe.
Yeah, it is, hey. Yeah. There you go. Look at an egg. There you go.
Have you,
It's better than
worked out
looking
what
at
you're doing? Worked out what you're
Yeah.
doing with that yet?
Yep. I looked at the African
All right,
trees.
back again.
I'm gonna do African trees.
Yeah.
How you going there?
Oh, come on.
We can hear you now, Robbo, so don't swear.
Yeah, I'm about to.
Well, it's your live. You can if you want. It's your party and you can cry if you want to. How you going, Mike?
Right, now, I don't know. Yeah, I'm just on that camera, but I don't know what's happened with the other cameras.
Mike's just come in. How you going, Mike?
Yeah, Mike.
Just talk amongst yourselves.
Oh, we were talking about you while you couldn't hear us.
Yeah.
Yeah, well. There we go. Right.
Get us off the screen, man.
Right, that's it. Good.
No, it's gone. That one's whoa, right.
Yeah.
Full.
Okay. Right, now we're up to...
You'd only started the first gouge when you froze, Robbo.
Yeah, right. Now, this is a record. So it's a company that's no longer in operation, but that is a V flute. And notice how deep it is down the bottom there, at the bottom of the flute, how thick the material actually is. And it makes it very, very hard if you're using jigs to sharpen it.
Go down a
What do
little bit.
what do you want to say, Neil?
I'll just say come down a bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. So that's a V flute. Now, this is a round flute. This is a 3/4 inch bar. It's one of the big P&Ns that they used to make. So that is a round flute. Then we've got, let's see. I've just got to find it, but no, not here.
So yeah,
The
P&N's just
P&N
come in. How you going?
The P&N
Hey, Tim.
flute, V flute. Here we go. There's a P&N V flute. Now, these are a mongrel to sharpen. When you go to sharpen them, you get a little beaking under here. Now, that can be handy sometimes if you're running down the edge of something and you want a sharp edge at the bottom. Now, this, I'll go through the sharpening thingos now. Now, this is a pure Ellsworth grind. Notice how the cutting edge comes in back. I'll have to move back a bit. The cutting edge comes in over the top. It doesn't come straight up the sides like this one. This comes straight up the top. I don't think I can get the two of them together. Might be able to. There we go. You can see the difference in the way they ground on the sides. Plus the Ellsworth is a very, very long grind. And a lot of people call the Ellsworth grind a swept back or an Irish grind, and it's not. It's a totally different grind altogether. It's very, very small in the bevel here, and small in the bevel there. That's either 60 or 30, depending on which way you measure it. So it gives a very short one. It's mainly made to be used as a shear scraper because of the length of the edge. This one is a modified swept back grind. It comes right back, but as you can see, the edges are pretty straight up the sides here.
Mole Valley Maker has just come in and Blair's just come in. How you going?
Hey, Blair.
G'day, Blair. And I think it's Dave, MVM. Now, wait on.
Yeah.
Right. Now, this is a swept back grind. Goes back about 1/2 inch. It's even all the way around the flute. So that's your Irish grind, swept back, or Liam Nielsen grind. He was the one that developed it. So
Tim just made a very good comment, Robbo.
Yep.
He said, I don't even know what my grind is anymore. I just got to a point where I liked it.
Yeah, well, that's the whole thing. If you read any sharpening thingos, they say, oh, it should be at 60 degrees. I run all my tools at 45 degrees with the exception of a few. For the simple reason I found that they work because of the way I work. I have everything down at 45, so naturally the tools and that come into the thing. So if it works for you, don't muck with it. That's the easiest thing. So I've got to have a slurp on my cup of tea here. Right, any questions on tools or anything so far?
No, not yet.
Okay. Now, as I said, I've got this on the slowest speed at the moment. And all my lathes are switched at both ends. There's a switch up this end. There's also the main switches down this tailstock end so that I do not have to stand in the way of starting it. That's the slowest speed. I hope this mic cuts out the sound of the lathe. It's got straight cut. It's got straight
Sorry.
cut gears in it, and of course, straight cut gears are always noisy as hell. All right, I'll take it up a couple of speeds now. See, F. Right, she's doing 240 revs now. Right, now go to an overhead camera.
Just for information, Robbo, we're not picking up too much noise through your mic.
Yeah. Okay, now like I said, I always come in from this end just to cut it down a bit. And I just make what's called a plunge cut.
You probably just talk normally, Robbo, too, because it's picking up, the mic's working really well.
And I actually don't move it sideways until I get down near there. Let me get the tool I like using.
Robbo,
Yes,
you don't have to yell. We can hear you normally.
I'm not yelling, actually, I'm just talking.
Oh, okay. And Mike wants to know what the wood's called.
Japanese cedar. And you'd think it'd be pretty soft being a cedar, but it's reasonably hard, actually. Now, I'll shift some of these tools, Neil. Just sit them over on Terry. Now, the way I cut is 45 degrees to the timber. The flute is set at 45, and I've got 45 degrees down underneath as well. Hence the 45-degree sharpening angle. Starting to take a bit of the weight off it now, so I'll speed it up a bit. Now, just another once everything's set up, the only thing that you can move is your banjo or your tool rest. Now, as you can see, I'm not quite in the center here, so I'm going to move that across, but don't move it that far across that you run out of space on this end here. I see a lot of people here, and when they get up to here, suddenly it runs off the end. And man, that can be very dangerous. So always try to select a tool rest that goes about an inch past here, that overlaps there. Now my next statement is really going to annoy the crap out of some people. You can use a spindle gouge on bowls. Up until bowl gouges came into being, they didn't have. They had to use spindle gouges.
So Radar and Rob from Copper Owl have dropped in.
Right. I've just got to find the spindle gouge right on. No, that's a bowl gouge. Moving on. Yeah. Okay, this is a 1/2 inch spindle gouge. The
Some of the
secret is,
confusion comes in, Robbo, with the fact that the roughing gouge is also called the spindle roughing gouge, and they're two totally different tools.
that's right. These are a spindle gouge. Which camera are we on? Top one. See how shallow it is in the flute? It's not a very big cross section. So the secret with using a spindle gouge on bowl work is that you don't have 10 inches of overhang, which is what the bowl gouge is for, working a long way off the rest because it's a lot stiffer in its cross section. But in some cases, a spindle gouge actually gives a better cut than a bowl gouge. And if you're doing spindle work with a bowl gouge, you're just operating on this little bit here. And I see people would angle it right round like that, and it's meant to be cut like so, all 45 degrees, but it's a small contact area, whereas with a spindle gouge, you get a slightly larger contact area because of the shape of the nose of it. That's if it's sharpened correctly. A lot of people will still sharpen them to a point. All right.
Steve C's in. Eric just dropped in. Eric Winkler.
How's it going, Steve, Anthony, and Copper Owl?
Sorry, I can't hear anybody at the moment. Now, as I said, I prefer cutting in that way. You can cut this way when you get down towards the centre, but it's hard work coming all the way out here and coming in. Now you'll notice again, 45 degrees, flute's at 45, and it's about 45 degrees down. Now I don't worry about finishing off the bottom too much. I put a tenon on it to hold it in the chuck, which I'll do in a minute. Now using a skew chisel, I put a little dimple in the middle here. Two reasons for that. It makes it no break on this one, because if it had a break, there's a good chance that with the weight of what you've got on the outside, it would unscrew itself off the face plate. So no break on this one. Now the reason for that little dimple there is so that I can get my thingos here to measure the chuck. Now with these we run 100 and I think it's 150 mil in it now. Right, I'll do it on the camera actually so people can see. I'm still on the overhead one. Right, now sorry, were there any questions there?
No.
Right. I don't measure the full diameter. I just measure half of it. I find this is the safest way to show beginners how to do it, because a lot of people, when they're using these, will pick it up on this upside here, and the calipers will fly over, or the dividers. Excuse me. The dividers will flip over and whack you in the face. So with that little dimple in the middle there, you just sit one point in. Sit the other end down on the tool rest. There's your size. Just shift that out of the way. Now, as I said, I don't finish off this part here for the simple reason that it's going to be turned around when it's finished, and that tenon and that will be turned into the foot and everything. All right.
So a couple of comment and a question there. Mike commented that he, quote, Jeebus just realised how wide those bedways are. And
Oh.
Rex just questioned what the double beep was. There must be a beep beep coming through. I didn't pick up on it.
Oh, is it still coming through, Rex, or not?
Might have been when you changed cameras, I reckon. I didn't pick up on it, but I'll keep listening out for it. If I hear it again, I'll let you know.
Oh, yeah, right, yeah. Right, now, as I said, I don't finish this part in here because it's going to be finished and turned into a foot when I've turned it around after I've finished the rest of it. By the same token, right, now we'll start shaping the outside of it.
Rex has just made another comment. Love doing the initial shaping the way you say to do it, as it's less painful for him and takes less physical strength most of the time.
Well, it does, that's right. Like if you're trying to cut the whole thing, it just makes it bounce everywhere. And generally you can't get the speed up on it and you're turning air and everything else. So I find it's just easy to plunge it straight in. Which camera are we on now? We're on that one.
The one over the other side of the bed, Robbo.
Oh yeah, rightio. Right. Best one's probably the overhead one for this.
I don't know, the overhead you're only getting half the bowl. That was actually a pretty good view you had on that other one.
Yeah, it's on the back side though, that's the only problem. I'm starting to shape this out. Now,
Okay.
this has got a branch in here, which we've covered in super glue at the moment. And to make it even more interesting, it's a little bit rotten over this side here. So what I'm going to try and do is get rid of this by doing an OG shape in it. And hopefully that'll be turned out.
So Kim's asking how big the blank is, Robbo?
540 millimetres, nearly 2 feet, not quite.
So, yep.
Oh, yeah. What Neil's saying is that we've got a chainsaw cut down here. I don't worry too much about that. Yeah. No, I don't. Neil's saying that because this is uneven around here, I should turn it down to get it down to the narrowest point here. But I can see on the shadow line while it's turning how wide it is. And to be quite honest, I find it very hard coming in from this face for some reason. So I just leave it and I can see the shadow line down through here. I know that we've got about an inch overhang up here. So I never worry about actually marking it there or doing anything with it. I just start from here and work on it.
So Eric's also got a question there, Robbo. So we've got the diameter and I guess he's asking what the depth is.
140 mil at its narrowest.
So just about a bit over 5.5 inches ish.
Yeah. It was supposed to be 2 foot by 6 inches in the old measurements, but various
got robbed
reasons.
by a dodgy chainsaw cutter.
Yeah. He just said robbed by a dodgy chainsaw cutter. Neil gave his usual response, shrugged his shoulders and said, too bad. All right, so start getting rid of the waste out of here now. Now, when you're making this cut, always make sure that you go right through. That's why it's important that you have the tool rest outside the turning area, because it's easy to get caught here. If you stop there and bring up subsequent cuts to it, you run that into that and the tool can catch real bad. So always make sure that you go and follow right through.
So Mike must like cheese, Robbo. He said it's a good size for a personal cheese platter.
Sorry, what's that?
Mike must like cheese. He's just said it's a good size for a personal cheese platter.
Oh yeah, it definitely would be. Right, now that was a 1/2 inch bowl gouge. Sorry, yeah, 1/2 inch bowl gouge, which is 5/8 in American thingos. This one is a 3/4 inch. Like I said, Reg has the grunt to be able to do it. If you tried that on a normal lathe, you'd just stall it. Coil springs. Right, let's see how this rotten part's going and see how we're going with that. Sorry. Yeah, this rotten part here is nearly gone. So that's good. Then we've got this branch here. And the CA's come right down into it. So now, you notice I haven't started forming the tenon yet. I start doing that after I've got the majority of this out of the way, so that I can actually speed the lathe up a bit when I get down there, because I'm starting to get the weight off it. Right, we'll just move this tool rest around a bit. Now, this is it's a funny sort of timber. It's fairly soft, but it can be as hard in places as well. And it tends to tear out a little bit when it's turning, like up here. So, but this is only roughing cuts. We'll fix it up when we get down a little bit further.
So Chris Dodds asked a question, Robbo. How did the lathe get the name Reg?
Well, its full name is Reginald, because that's a classy name in my opinion. Reginald Wadkin. And I used to have Angus Wadkin as well, but I sold him. I'm selling a lot of equipment and stuff at the moment. I don't want to be morbid about it, but I don't know how much longer I've got, and I do not want to leave my wife the hassle of trying to get rid of materials and garbage out of a thing that she knows nothing about. Fortunately, I've had Neil here for a few months, and he's got rid of a lot of the timber and stuff for me, for which I'm eternally grateful. So, Yeah, it's good to have good friends. Right, so I'll finish just getting this roughed off, and we'll see what we can get rid of here. We've got a hell of a hole in here. I don't know which camera we're on.
Overhead.
Yeah, right. It's a fairly deep one there. Yeah, we're not going to be able to get rid of that. It's a good inch deep. You never know. You might. Rightio. I'll keep hacking stuff out of the way. Been a while since I've turned a bowl. And I've forgotten how great fun it is just to hack material out of the way and not have to do anything about it. Yeah, it's looking pretty. Now, if you had to use an Ellsworth grind to make that cut, it gets very difficult. It's nearly laid over it completely on its side. Now, I find because of the short nose bevel down here, it's hard to keep into place. But if you want to make a shear cut with it, it's absolutely fantastic. Because of the long bevel on it. You can get around like that. But also, a spindle gouge. In this case, a 3/4 inch spindle gouge also does a great job. You hold it horizontally across like that, but you can actually see where you're going with it. This one's got a heck of a lot of branches and things in it. All right, I'll finish that off in a minute. Right, I'll put the tenon on the base now.
A couple of comments come through, Robbo. Justin's made a couple. He said a couple of comments. Justin's made a couple of comments. Reg is royalty. And also, he said you could probably catch the shavings off that 3/4 bowl gouge and sell them as pen blanks.
Yeah, sorry, Neil said something.
Oh, Ricky was asking, Rick will stop it. Ricky, I won't trouble reading this.
Yeah, I'm getting there.
Marketplace. Both Watkins, yes, have been sold on Marketplace. We've still got a Techno tool and a
Woodfast.
Did you hear that, Ricky?
I think the cameraman needs to learn that the earworms take care of the questions.
Yeah.
He can't hear what I'm saying to Robbo, I guess.
No, he can't.
Yes.
Right, so
Ricky, yes, they were sold on Marketplace.
Right, now, because we're not working up here now, I do tend to move the tool rest a little bit in towards the centre here. But still got a heap of overhang on each side, mainly because the tool rest is the strongest part of it is straight above the pin where it goes into the banjo. So you don't get as much vibration. That's the only reason I tend to move it around. And it is the only part on the lathe that you can move once you've got everything else set up. Yeah, you can. Now, this is another really swept back grind, and it's ideal for cutting in straight in. Ah, yeah, mongrel.
Just for everybody's information, what you just heard there was Robbo swearing profusely. That's about as bad as it gets.
Now, I use the skew chisel for doing the tenons for the simple reason that it's got to have a slight dovetail down in here. So the skew chisel forms it perfectly. It's got to have a sharp edge in here. Can't have any little lumps or anything for the jaws to sit into. And it's got to be flat on this face here. So the skew chisel does all of that, virtually one-stop shop. Like so. Now, this is a fairly long tenon on this because the chuck has fairly deep dovetails. Right. The next thing I do is I always try the chuck before I do anything else to make sure it fits. For those interested, it's a Vic Mark chuck. It's their Vic Mark 150, I think, 120. Right. Now, still on overhead, are we? All right. Just go to the overhead for a minute, please, Neil. Okay. Now, as you can see, the gap here is really too big. So it'll only be gripping in the middle of these. It won't be gripping around the whole face of the arc. So I have to reduce the diameter a little bit. Plus, I'm not sure if the camera can pick it up, the dovetail is too long and it's leaving a gap. It's actually seated out in the bottom of the chuck, which is what you don't want. Oh, wait on, maybe it's not. Yes, it is. It's seated out in the bottom of the chuck, and that's bad. It's got a seat on the face of the chuck, not right in the back of it here. Rightio. So we'll take it off. We'll just make those little adjustments. That's Bob your uncle. Now, another little trick, because you're moving this around, the tool rest around a little bit, I always put washers and spacers in it. So it doesn't matter where it goes, it always stays the same height. And I always work under center generally, so that I can get the angle on the chisel. I don't understand people that hold the chisel horizontal. Just change to that back camera, please. Yep. I can't understand why people work with their chisel horizontal and their arm cocked up. It must be hell on their shoulders. So by having it down there, it's easy enough when you get to here. just to lift the handle up a little bit to come right on the centre anyway, because you're operating above centre when you're doing the cuts. Right. And when you're setting that up and you're taking the tool rest in and out to get the chuck on, it always goes back in the same place if you've got spacers on it. Right, that's better. Now you can see it's only about a quarter of an inch there. So it's well down on the thing. It's come back into the, it's located right back into the, on the face of the jaws. And it's finished straight. Couldn't ask for anything more. Now, normally I must admit I'd leave that on. But I'm afraid I'm going to have to call it quits in a minute. How long have I been going? 51 minutes. I'm starting to get a little bit breathless, and I'll continue this next Sunday. So, you've got any questions so far about anything I've done? Just ask, please.
So Woodward
by the way,
commented
yep,
that he's learned so much in 10 minutes, Robbo, with you.
Thank you. What was I going to say? I was going to say something now. I've forgotten what it was. Oh, yeah. Yeah, as I said, I don't finish the back. Neil will finish that off. I can't sand anything at the moment, for obvious reasons. And actually, it's annoying me a great deal not being able to do things. You don't realise how much you rely on things until you can't do it. So I know what I was going to say. For those of you that don't know, I actually gave up smoking nearly 4 months ago. I haven't had a cigarette since end of November, basically. I'm very proud of myself for doing that. So
well done, Robbo.
And Julie's quite amazed that I haven't killed anybody. She said that I've been very, very good, and my temperament has remained the same. In other words, short-tempered all the time. No, not really. I'm very patient with most things, actually.
I was going to comment it couldn't get much worse, Robbo.
Yeah, well, that's right. Yeah.
If you didn't have any lathes or woodworking stuff, then you'd go crazy.
Oh yeah, I definitely would. Without any, if I didn't have my lathes or the shed out the back just to potter around in, I'd be a nervous wreck. So
might have to block Chris, Robbo. I reckon he's just commented, "I've learned a lot from you, Robbo. Thanks. And before you shuffle off, can you turn a pen?" Do we just block him now, or?
No, no need to block him. Which camera am I on? This one here.
Yeah.
I actually, I've only got a 2-finger reply for him there.
all the pens are on the floor. Take your pick. Which curly pen do you want? They're all on the floor down there.
Yeah, put an insert into one of them. That's right.
No, Mal's just dropped in and said, "You're a champ, Robbo." He said Robbie, but you know.
Who's that?
That'd
Sorry.
be Mal Taylor.
Oh yeah, yeah. Good day, Mel. How are you? Actually, I've got. I'm quite surprised, Mel. I didn't see a photo of Jack in your latest posting up there about your the weekend you've just had. Yeah, that one. Yeah. Oh,
Oh,
look
God.
out! Prepared to be. Yeah, just zoom it back a bit. It's up the top.
We'll have to give some intense training to your production assistant, Robbo.
Yeah.
And you might need to have a word to your makeup artist as well.
Oh, yeah. The makeup artist definitely needs. I won't look like this next week. It'll be all cut off. Yeah, like I say, I'll continue next Sunday with it. And Neil will finish off all the back of it and everything in the meantime. So I'd like to thank everybody for coming along, and hope it's been entertaining and educational, as always.
But
So
26 in.
Oh, that's a good crowd for a Sunday morning, particularly as it's very late over in America and everywhere else. So I shall shut it down, and thanks very much.
I got a screenshot of that. Thanks, Robbo.
I was
Me.
thinking I should have tried to do that.
Yeah.
Would have been a good pick too, Jane.
Yes, Chris. As I said, I'm starting to grow into a one of the donks. That's it. Oh, JP, how are you? You've missed a lot because I'm going to knock off. All right. Thanks, Terry. See you later. Sorry, that's not Terry. That's
Tim.
Tim, that's right. All right. Bye-bye all.
Bye.